Hello, everybody. Welcome to class. On your screen right now, you're going to see our every session checklist. So I need for everybody to walk through these things for me. You're going to click the pink and purple tab at the lower right-hand corner to open the Collaborate panel. You're going to click the My Settings icon, that little geared-looking wheel doodad in the corner there. And you're going to make sure you set up your camera and your microphone. Your audio test is going to be click the down arrow, select the device, and then you just want to make sure you say something because your microphone should be moving like right and left on that screen. If it's not, then you may want to unplug and replug, just sort of see if you can get that functioning. And then you're going to want to check your video as well, but we're not going to be using that part. So the other part of your setup is you need to make sure that you set up your BB Ultra panel. So click the attendees panel in the lower left corner of that white block on the right-hand side. It looks like two little people, basically. And that's going to pop open the chat session to make sure that you can see what everybody else is saying while we're talking. And you're going to see the attendees when you, okay, well, I did that a little backward. You're going to hit the attendees, that's the little people. And then the chat icon is the little bubble guy there in the corner. So just make sure you have all those windows open so that you can see what's going on and hear everything. Okay, so we're going to make sure we minimize distractions, and we're going to do a quality check here in just a minute. So first, let's make sure we close the door. My husband literally just did that for me because the dog was chasing the cat. And we're going to turn off the phone. And we're going to breathe deeply for 5 breaths because I don't know about you, but I kind of need it today. So just take 5 deep breaths. Okay, that's better. All right, everybody ready? We're going to do a quality check. So I need for you to raise your hand. That's the little person-looking dude. Thank you, Jerry. Down in the bottom middle of your screen looks like a person with a hand up, literally. So if you see the red record in the upper left-hand corner, if you can hear me and you can see this slide that says get ready across the top, please raise your hand. Oh, fantastic. Okay, everybody, you can lower your hand by clicking that same icon a second time. Thank you. All right. So today is January 30th, 2019. I am really not sure where January's gone, but it's about over, and with this weather, I'm okay with that. So today's session, we're going to cover some of the aspects of how education methods have shifted over time. I actually chose chapter 4 to talk about today. And I just want to have a shout out to all you virtual listeners who may be checking this out after the fact. So by the end of today's presentation, our SMART learning objectives are that you will be able to describe the history and the context of a variety of education methods. Participants will be able to describe how some education methods can support ongoing discourse and deeper learning. And I just realized my husband only caught one dog on the other side of the door, and the other one right here with me. Okay, we'll just close that door back again. They're very small terriers, and they like to bark, so we'll just make sure they're on the other side of the door. Okay, so one of the questions I had when I was walking through this chapter was quality versus quantity. So can you have both quality and quantity in education? So we've looked at some things where we talk about supersize, what I would call supersized classes, and then we look at some very small classes, and we've looked at some different methods of teaching, and so this is really kind of still a bit of an open question for me. So I'd like to talk about it with you just a little bit. So if you would please, over in the text chat on the right-hand side, where it says say something there at the bottom, you're going to locate that little window and type something in the text box where it's right exactly where it says say something and then hit enter. My question is, can you actually have quality and quantity in education? Okay, Jerry says yes. Yeah, Marcia says yes. We'll see if Regina agrees with you. It depends on the subject. Okay. Hey, Regina, would you mind hitting that little microphone icon at the bottom middle of your screen there and just maybe saying what you mean by subject?
Well, I guess, you know me, everything with me is nursing. So looking at it from a nursing perspective, depending on the subject that you're discussing or the topic, it all depends if whether or not you will be able to get the quality of education with the quantity of the actual material that needs to be presented, if I'm understanding it right.
Oh, okay, I get it. All right. Yeah, there is such a volume when you're talking about any medical field that I understand where that concern might come from. That's a really good point. See, this is why it's still a bit of an open question for me, because I'm not sure I'm totally sold on all subjects like Regina. All right, moving on. I wanted to talk a little bit about the different methods that were outlined in Chapter 4, like distance learning. This was what we always called mail order. I don't know. All of you are quite my age, but I do remember this being a method where you could take classes like when I was in high school and things. And so, oh, stop laughing, Regina. I know I'm older than you are. But mail order education is sort of the way I was thinking of it. And there were great intentions behind it. By offering people and places and situations who weren't able to attend regular classes on a campus, that's how you learn. Oh, that's fantastic, Jerry. Then, I mean, it was an attempt to provide options for people who couldn't get to class, couldn't take a class for a variety of reasons. We all know what a lot of those reasons are. We run into them as adult students. There's also an economy of scale issue, I think. And you could have many, many students assigned to a single instructor. And since the material production was limited to that subject for that class, and there were high dropout rates, courses didn't need as much time like a campus-located course might when you're for that instructor to deal with. Some issues came up, though, at a distance education. The whole weight of the learning really rests on the student. And for a lot of students, it's too much. They can't bear that all by themselves when all they've got is the material and they don't have a social network. They don't have help from the instructor, really. You might have a phone number, but these mostly predated people having email addresses all the time. But each learner was left to find their own way, and so many students would quit courses or degree programs under these kinds of circumstances. And to me, it's kind of sad. I mean, there were good intentions. They just didn't quite pan out in a lot of cases. So I wanted to know, have you taken a distance learning course before? Raise your hand to reply yes, and we already talked about you. Hit the little person with the hand raised there at the bottom. If you've taken a distance learning, oh, Jerry and Regina. All right, well, Jerry just said he did. Regina has too. All right, cool. Did not expect that result. That's fantastic. I have not. I didn't start college until I was in my 20s, and by that time I did it on campus because, I worked there. So I never really had an opportunity for that kind of thing. No, these would be online learning classes. And they did pre-exist. My master's degree is actually from Central Michigan University, and they have been doing distance learning since 1972. And the reason that stuck in my head is because that's how old I am. I thought it was kind of interesting. But they switched over from paper distance learning to online learning very early, about as soon as they possibly could figure out a way to do it. So. Let's go on to the next slide, maybe. There it goes. Campus-based education was another one of the items talked about in the chapter. The sheer size of some of the classes on campus, and that was an adjustment for me at Wright State, it requires that the instructor focus on lecture rather than inquiry. And so there's really not too many ways or practical ways for students to interact, to have feedback and path correction, ongoing 400-seat lectures. I'm sorry, I was shocked by anything over 50. I went to Wittenberg. But without the social and teacher pieces of the culture of inquiry model, it's easy for students to get lost in the campus, again, with the economy of scale. 210. See, this was a foreign concept to me when I showed up. I saw some of the rooms at Wright State and went, wow, those are huge. The addition of technology, though, that may allow the sustained discourse that Garrison was talking about in the book. And so I'm kind of hopeful for that, for the campus learning, to be able to find ways to actively engage students in our learning. All right, so I put raise your hand as the title of this, which is ridiculous because I would like for you to choose an emoticon to match your opinion on this one. I have the wrong title up there, my apologies. And for my virtual listeners, when we hit these activities, I was afraid I would ignore you before I started this, and I'm so sorry to ignore you, my virtual listeners. What I'd like for you to do is to just record your answer as you go through your notes, and then I will tell you there's really not going to be anything that I'm going to ask you to go back to the LMS to do this particular time around. So I'd like for you to all answer the question about, have you been in a classroom with more than 50 people and how was it? Use an emoticon to match your opinion. Did you like it? Jerry looks like he was surprised by it. Yeah, not so hot. From Regina. Like I said, I've actually never taken a class that large, so I don't know what it's like. You fell asleep. Oh, Marcia. I get it, though. Lecture is tough on the receiving end, for sure. Oh, yeah. I don't know how you, with 210 people, I mean, that would be really tough to know names, that's for sure. I'm not sure how I'd deal with that myself. So for online learning, it happened for many reasons, of course. For one, people still wanted to reach out to those wider audiences the way distance tried to do. For another, people started online classes because they could. I was actually in one of those places where we were experimenting with this stuff about 20 years ago or so, actually. So if we could push the tech, we did. And so that was another reason why online learning got started. But building a community of inquiry in an online learning course can have some of the same advantages and disadvantages that you find in distance and campus learning. So when the class sizes are large, like we're talking about that 210 in a class, you still have the same issue in an online class. And in some cases, it may actually be a little worse as far as whether or not the faculty can actually interact with that many people and hold up that third leg of the tripod for our community of inquiry. But any of these reasons can cause online learning to fail students in the long run. Online classes are worse. Yeah, my first master's degree was totally online. And that was from 2004 through 2000, when did I graduate? 2010. And some instructors definitely did better than others, that's for sure. This has been a whole different animal this time around. So blended learning. So blended learning, that Garrison really thinks that this is the way to go from reading these chapters, to develop that community of inquiry, to basically pick the pieces that are the best out of lecture and the pieces that are the best out of online, and be able to blend those together to actually support that ongoing discourse, and then be able to actually get everybody into that sort of community that is his ultimate goal. So I believe we have another activity coming up. All right, for our poll, again, virtual listeners, please just write your answer in the notes. And I got to switch over to our little polling thingy here. 4 choices. And so if you would please choose one of these options, which education methods can support building a community of inquiry? Distance learning, campus-based learning, online education, blended learning? Which one do you think is best? Because I don't think this thing is going to let you pick more than one. Oh, all right. So we've got blended learning as our, there we go. So now that it's locked, I believe you can see the results. So we have 3 who say blended learning is going to be the right answer. By the way, I'll give the rest of you a hint. Hit next before you are done talking about the previous one. So I'd ask, do you agree with our poll finding? But 3 out of 4 of you all said the same thing. So just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down over in the text chat. You can pull down the little arrow next to the smiley face there by the text box and just choose a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I should probably see at least 3 thumbs up over there. There we go. Yep. I really didn't expect you all to agree. Oh, that's all right. So when we're talking about developing a community of inquiry, we need to be able to translate this into our actual lives because we're not going to be students forever, right? Please tell me we're not going to be students forever. But the point is, Marsha's going to disabuse me of that in a minute. The point is that we need to be able to translate the same type of thing into our work setting. And so we're talking about, oh, that doesn't really work very well, does it? I'm going to draw a box around my little words down here. All right, so our setting our climate, supporting discourse, and that's terrible. Regulating learning is what I was after here. Because the social presence, cognitive presence, teaching presence, yeah, those are the big idea. But when you look at setting a climate, regulating the learning, and supporting discourse, those are important aspects in jobs as well. So my next question is, how can building a community of inquiry change the way we work? So for this exercise, I'd like for you to hit the, raise your hand, and then when I call on you, hit the microphone, and just let me know, what do you think building a community of inquiry, how can that change the way we work? Marcia, go ahead.
Well, I think it can change the way we work because I think when you are in a community of inquiry, you feel safe that you can talk about your ideas. You feel like it's a safe place to have meaningful discourse. And I think it also helps you to feel more engaged, towards, just to the environment, to whatever goal, to whatever projects you're working on. You feel like you matter and you get a chance, I think, to really collaborate more. And I think that changes, at least for me, I know it changes a lot. It makes me feel like I'm more efficient. I want to be there. I really want to work,
Very cool. I like it. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're running out of time. I got to move. So, sorry, guys. Community development. What are the ways to bring the social, teaching, and cognitive presences into your workplace? My apologies. I had to cough for a second. All right. So how do we bring this stuff into our workplace? For this exercise, use the text or the drawing tools up at the top left of your screen. And I don't know if you can draw an answer over in that box. For sure, you could hit the little T and maybe type an answer in that little box. But I'm just looking for Marcia was right on when it came to why does this matter to have this, to try to build this in our workplaces. So how do you think you can build it into your specific workplace? Is it something where you feel like the training aspect or the teaching aspect is missing? Is the social aspect missing? That's entirely possible. Or we all just show up and we all go on to work and we all go back home. And we don't actually commune to actually build that inquiry about questions that we're facing at work. You can share your knowledge with others through things like a brown bag lunch. Ah, I like it. Okay. So taking advantage of both a social sort of aspect and bringing in a bit of a teaching presence with that as well. Is that something where maybe this requires buy-in from management or administration in our case? That's a potential. Oh, I didn't see the blue. Make professional development more, the cognitive aspect is missing, so it'll require educating others on what is required. Ooh. We all have some work to do, basically. Those are fantastic answers. Thanks, guys. So there's been a swing back towards smaller class sizes and or ways to connect with students on a more personal level. Well, it's been important to millennials, 22 to 35, that's where they are, right? Gen X is probably going to be even more so about needing to meet them where they are and build that social aspect. The technology, we just talked about this, it's only going to be as successful as the commitment. Commitment from administration to support and provide the tech, from the instructor to use the technology effectively to provide that social and teacher presence opportunities. There's only so much of this the student can provide. And so we really are going to have to do a better job, I think, of making sure that the teacher presence and the social presence and the cognitive presence are all represented if we're going to build successful communities of inquiry. All right. So anybody have any questions, comments? I accept all of the above. It's about time to quit recording. Oh, good. And my arm did not fall off. So we're going to stop the recording. Yeah. And Jerry is up at 9 o'clock, I believe. So all of you virtual listeners, if you want to go listen to Jerry's presentation as well, feel free. Otherwise, thank you all for attending. And thank you to my virtual listeners who came back and tolerated my forgetting you for the first half of the presentation. Everybody have a good evening, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.